All right, let's get to it. So welcome to our last meeting of 2025. Yeah, we did it. We're gonna start off with chapter business. We are first going to talk about our grant recipients for the fall cycle. So I'm going to read this on behalf of Lucy, our grants chair. And we are so excited to announce that we have funded 4 projects totaling $5,000, over $5,000. So, and this is all on behalf of Moore Farms Botanical Garden, who sponsored our grant program. So we're funding 4 projects. The first is at the City of North Myrtle Beach to plant native trees at their new sports complex. The second project is with Horry County, the libraries, and they will be doing native plant seeds at their seed libraries. Have you seen the little seed libraries at the libraries in Horry County? We're sponsoring some of their packets so they can do that throughout Horry County. We sponsored another project at the Academy for Arts and Science and Technology on International Drive to plant natives around their pond and greenhouse. So excited to sponsor that high school project. And then the final project we supported this year is the Friends of Coastal South Carolina to create a pollinator garden at the Waccamaw Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center. So let's give it up for these grant recipients. And we'll be hearing more about these projects as they happen over the course of the next year. So we're really excited about that. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about the symposium, which was now 2 months ago. How many of you joined us at the symposium? Or 1 month ago? How does time work? Thank you for those of you doing math real quick. It was only 1 month ago. We had a great time. There was some lovely people at Plant Prom at Atalaya Castle at Huntington Beach State Park. We had some wonderful sessions at Brook Green Gardens, some breakout sessions. We had amazing field trips. And these photos don't do it all justice, but I wanted to recognize the volunteers who put I don't think we had any blood, but definitely their sweat, their tears, their hard work into the symposium and made it a success for 100 of our fellow Native Plant Society members. So I want to shout out to my co-chair Maeve for doing it. I want to recognize Catherine for helping with publicity, for all of the folks on the symposium planning committee, and Maeve, help me out with this because I've clearly forgotten since it went so many months ago. Our amazing folks at Brook Green. So without Jason and Kayla, it would not have happened. They led sessions and also coordinated with their colleagues at Brook Green. Then we had Mike Walker at Huntington Beach State Park, who led field trips and also helped us pull off our plant prom. Well, who else?
Catherine helped their communications, their marketing for the event. We had numerous speakers and field trip hosts from the area.
Kara helping coordinate our silent auction, which I'll get to in a second. Jessica, who helped also on our committee. Tierney, who helped keep us on track in our committee. Cheryl with a day of helping us woman the check-in table and keeping us on track. Oh, and this lady up here in the front. Couldn't do it without these folks. So it was definitely a labor of love, and we're really glad we were able to pull it off. Who am I missing?
But you did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single person said how great it was.
Thank you. Sudi, our field trip, helped with field trips, and getting it. Just so many people contributed, and we're really proud that we were able to show off our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you missed it, don't worry. Next year, the Low Country chapter will be hosting the symposium. So if you want to drive a little bit, I'm sure some of us will be attending, and check out Charleston. But if you want to see our version of the symposium, try again in 6 or 7 years. So, I do want to talk more about the silent auction. We had these amazing folks and businesses who donated. And I am really excited to announce, with the help of Kara, who helped organize this, and Jessica, who was her right-hand woman the day of, we raised over $2,000 for our chapter. So let's make some noise for that. That will allow our chapter to do explore new projects in the new year, and the board will help decide what to do with that money. So if you have ideas, you can be a part of it. So speaking of the board, I'm going to take a moment to recognize the folks who served on this year's chapter board, including so once I say your name, wave really dramatically, I guess. So Tierney, yeah, our vice president, Maeve, woo, our education chair, Babs, our membership chair, Kara, who couldn't be here, our treasurer, Babs again. Why? Babs, Catherine, our communications chair, Sudi, our member at large, Evan, our grants chair, and me, I've been here the whole time. It takes a lot of work to put on these meetings and these events, and it's led by volunteers. We're not paid a whole lot. In fact, we haven't been paid at all. These folks put in a lot of hard work to pull off these events. And if you think we did a good job, or if you think we did a bad job and you think you could do better, I've got some news for you. You could help serve on the 2026 chapter board. Right now, these are your nominees and the folks who are willing to step up and serve in different positions. As you can see, there's there's new positions, and we've talked about some of these at previous meetings, but because we're growing and expanding to new projects, we've talked about different roles, right? We need new roles to do those projects. So this chapter is what we make it and what you all and we all collectively would like to do. So this is our draft chapter board for next year. We're still going to figure out the details, because this is kind of a democracy where our bylaws say you will vote on the positions that are highlighted, but unless there are other nominees, you'll kind of just confirm, because we won't really have an election because there's nothing much to decide. But we do have some spaces that are still open, and there can always be board members at large to participate. So if you have any questions about serving on the chapter board, please reach out to Grand Strand President at scnps.org, which will be me until the end of the year. And then in 2026, it'll be Maeve Snyder. And so she'll deal with you then. So just kidding. So let's give a round of applause for these folks who will lead us in 2026. Okay. I want to talk about one other successful event we did, which Tierney is going to talk about it right now.
Fall 2025 plant sale. Woo! This was our 5th plant sale. I had to go back and count because I couldn't remember how many we've done at this point. And we had it in a new location. We were at Surfside Beach at the farmers market location, which, as you can see from the photos, is a really beautiful spot under these beautiful live oak trees. We had a little bit of a snafu because we had a nor'easter on the date it was supposed to happen, and then we had to pivot real quick. And luckily, everybody responded. Catherine updated all of our, communications stuff. Surfside Beach was really responsive, and we were able to postpone it rather than cancel it altogether. So I just want to thank everyone who helped make the plant sale happen. and for all the people who showed up. Yeah, so that was really great. And as you know, I'm stepping back from my role as plant sale chair to move on to the state board as the president starting in 2026 of the society. So we needed to find someone who was going to take on this role. And as of this week, I have a handshake. Jessica Tortone is going to be our new plant sale chair. So everybody, yes, thank her profusely. Otherwise, there would not be plant sales. So, and that's all I got. Woo. Plant sales.
I'm very proud. I planted the plants I purchased at the fall plant sale, which I normally can't say that by the November meeting. So things are looking up for me. All right, so it is time for our featured speakers, which tonight is you. Well, don't worry, it's some of you. So our member presentations this evening, and we're going to start off with Catherine and Sudi. Yeah.
All right, here. Yeah, so we're here to talk about our plant rescue program. Just
can we do this part or
I'll do the first two
Okay.
slides and then you go. So just a reminder of our mission and why we're here. So the mission of SCNPS is to protect and restore native plants and educate the community. I really like working on plant rescues because I feel like it kind of hits all three of those things. So curious who here has had the experience where you're just like driving down the road and suddenly somewhere that used to be trees is just an empty lot. Yeah. Happened to me twice on the way here. So, you know, obviously we always want to encourage the preservation of native plant communities, but we also acknowledge that sometimes it's inevitable that they're going to be destroyed. So that's why this is like really important to me, is being able to save the plants.
So we got started last year, and we so it started with a Venus flytrap rescue, and these are growing on a roadside that some botanist that we all know spread some seeds like 20 years ago, and so they're growing on this ditch bank by some woods. And what happened, of course, they got cut and now there's houses there and there's a lot of disturbance, but they're doing really well on that ditch bank, but they're just doing worse and worse because of the sediment and the sidewalk and the mowing and the herbicide. So we started relocating them, and we did that last year. That was kind of our first loose plant rescue, and we took it to a place that used to historically have fly traps. Then they haven't been seen there in a long time. So we planted them last year. There was a drought. It looked really bad. But I'm happy to say this year we've been back and found at least, I don't know, 10 clumps alive. So that was pretty cool. So that was a success. And then, so this year, I'm on this commission for the city of Conway. It's the Water Quality and Drainage Commission. And Victoria's been coming to some meetings too. It's this weird little group that we're not sure what we're doing, but the city stormwater and public works are doing this project in Conway where they're digging these ponds for, to help with flooding. That's what they say. I'm skeptical, but that's what they're doing on some of their properties. But we were able to, so Jackie Taylor's the chairperson of that group, and we were able to work with the engineer and the city to go out there and check it out to see if there's anything to save. And we walked around, and lesson learned. I wish, we kind of had this little schematic, but because you couldn't really tell what was happening. And then I started requesting the actual designs, and it took a while to get that. And we got out there and realized that this little power line right away, right here, was rich with wildflowers. And so you can go to the next one. So this is in Conway. between Sherwood and Crabtree Swamp, where they cut, it's going to be a 15-acre pond, and they cut a bunch of early successional pine and some hardwoods, but really the gem is this little savanna remnant, which is just really it's really kind of sad but neat to think that that's what Conway used to be. It's probably a long leaf pine forest with these, really beautiful savannas. And these are some of the plants. Catherine's, got us a spreadsheet now, and Kayla went out there and keyed out a lot of plants. But we had a long list of plants, and we started in August, and we've been out there. I don't know. I live like 5 minutes away, so we've been out there like, I don't know, 10 times.
A dozen times, yeah.
And I was trying to kind of come up with a rough estimate of how many plants we saved, but based on like the number of trips, the number of pots, I'm estimating over 300 plants. I mean, we would dig up clumps, and they would have multiple plants in the clump. So that's just an example. There was Chaptalia tomatosa, which is pineland daisy, and this couple of rare species, this purple foxglove, some sandhills thistle, all kind of cool plants. Yeah, let's go to the next one. And this is the one that I first noticed when I went out there, and we were like looking in the woods, and then I saw this plant. Like, why did I look in the woods? I should know to key in on the open area for wildflowers. And this is just some things to think about when we start telling people what to look for. But this is the Baldwina uniflora, Savannah honeycomb head. It's globally imperiled, and it's a high priority for the state DNR heritage program, the SWAP, which is the State Wildlife Action Plan. And it's, associated with longleaf pine savannas and Carolina Bay edges. And then this next one, so this is what keyed us in. And then once you walk in, just like at Lewis Ocean Bay, it's grassy, and you'd walk in and you start noticing everything else. And then like 2 months after, so we started in August, and we were still digging up plants in early November, I think, or late October. And Catherine spotted this, which is so cool, slender rattlesnake root. And that's also tracked by the DNR heritage program, and it's globally imperiled. Just a really pretty plant. Used to be Prenanthes. I learned that name changed when we found that, but and then so all these plants are babied. Maeve took some, Tierney took some, Catherine, I don't think she took many. she did a lot of digging. Kayla took a bunch, but we ended up finding some spots for them. So the Waccamaw Tribal Grounds, we've been out there doing invasive species removal projects, and we kind of tacked this on. I had a bunch of plants in my truck, and we ended up, they worked with them. They said okay, and they have this ditch, so it's kind of this wet area that they wanted to expand anyway. So we put some plants in there. And the cool thing is, some of these plants we're looking up, like this Nabalus that we just looked at, does have an indigenous use for actual rattlesnake bites. They use the root. So we're going to try to maybe work with them to, make a list and a sign and all that. So what's next? And then this is goes back to that first slide. And this was just a couple weeks ago. Finally put in the plants that I'd been babying in pots and watering. But it's right next to this bog garden, which was put in a couple months ago. And that was through one of the grants from a couple years ago from us. And that was Coastal Conservation League. Built that bog garden. It has the rain barrel, and has a sign, educational, and the Waccamaw Wildlife Refuge Visitor Center is kind of scant on native plants in the landscaping. So we added to that with our plants. And then we also put them out on a private land. So I'm working with the Fish and Wildlife Service. I'm a private lands biologist, and I work with a landowner to improve the habitat on his property on about 300 acres. And he's got a Carolina Bay and some longleaf uplands. So we've been doing prescribed fire and planting longleaf. And so we took a bunch of the plants out there. So it was a really appropriate place. And so that's, anyway, I got my son involved, and you saw my truck full of plants, and I was thinking about trading in my truck, but I think I might need it for plant rescue. It's been great. And my son used his truck, and he got to go mud bogging. Anyway, so this is some of the other places that some of the rescue plants went. And so Freewoods Farm is a really good opportunity, or educational opportunity. And then Kayla has them, she took a bunch of plants And she has them at Brook Green, and she got them over to Moore Farms and the Botanical Gardens. And so these can be used in, they're preserved, and then they can also be used in other rescue efforts. They can propagate them and, you know, have the seeds and have more plants. So there's lots of different uses, I think. So this is Catherine.
Yeah. So we want to keep doing more of these, obviously. And so here's some ways that you can help. If you're a person who likes native plants, you can submit a volunteer interest form. We use Slack to coordinate rescues, so you can join our Slack. You can tell your friends and neighbors about it. Then I've also created a tip line for upcoming development. So if you know anybody, you can fill that in. If you're a master gardener or a member of a garden club or a homeowner, we also created a way for you to fill out a form to apply to receive plants. So we'd love to, our vision is to, you know, work with all of you who are talented in gardening, and you can like plant them in your yard, propagate them, pass them on to your neighbors. Our vision is just to spread the native plants throughout the community. If you have a connection to a community garden, if you're one of our grant recipients or or if you're a teacher, you can fill out the form to receive plants and put them in your community garden. If you're a plant conservation professional, we'd also love to partner with you to work on this. And then if you're a developer, a real estate professional, or if you know anybody who is in that industry, they can email us or fill out the tip line form. So wanted to say thank you to everyone who's worked on this year. It's a lot of people who've come out. We've come out multiple times. So we really can't do it without you, and just would love to keep moving this forward. And you can email us at grandstrandplantrescue@scnps.org. And then all the forms are easily linked on our chapter webpage, and the QR code here goes to our webpage. So you just go to our chapter page, scroll down, find the plant rescue section, and you can fill in any of those forms. So we'd love to work with people to do more of these next year.
And so Catherine also made a slide. We're trying to work. I'm starting with Conway because that's where I have a connection, but we made a slide for them to use in their public outreach channel, where it'll have it pop up and say, you know, if here's this opportunity, contact us. You know, if we're trying to figure out a way to kind of get in ahead of some of these projects. So anyway.
Yep. That's it for us.
Skip it. Yeah, skip me.
All right, everyone, close your eyes. Don't look at these. Don't look elsewhere if you don't.
Skip.
Okay. All right, next one, Tierney.
So I had the opportunity to attend the Cullowhee Native Plant Conference this year. The Cullowhee Native Plant Conference is a week-long conference at Western North Carolina University, and it is an entire week completely dedicated to native plants. It is wonderful, and I highly encourage everyone to go. Plan to register early. This year we broke the website because we were all trying to register at the same time. And registering early gets you into the good field trips, because the very first day is an entire day out in the field. And then you go back to the campus, and then there's lectures and things like that. So I'm from the foothills of the Adirondacks, so I'm really a mountains kind of girl, not a flatlander kind of girl, but somehow I live in the flatlands, which I love. But if I'm going to the mountains, I need to get out into the mountains. So I picked Sam's Knob, which they said was, you know, just strenuous difficulty, which it really wasn't. Botanists move at a very, very slow pace. So, but we did go up into the mountains, and I just wanted to share with you all the various plants, or some of the various plants that we got to see while we were there. So this map just sort of orients you. The yellow star is where Cullowhee is, where the university is, where the actual conference takes place. The orange star is Sam's Knob, and the red squiggly line is the North Carolina portion of the Blue Ridge Parkway, just so you get a sense of where you're at. Sam's Knob is just off of the Blue Ridge Parkway on Black Balsam Knob Road. It is in Pisgah National Forest. And this is the trail system in the area that we hiked. So basically what we did, we started at the trailhead at the Yellow Star. We went south down Flat Laurel Creek Trail up to this junction, crossed Flat Laurel Creek, went up to that open pale blob is a meadow, is a human managed meadow. And then back to the trailhead. And then we actually went up the Avester Gap Trail a little bit because there's this really cool little cranberry bog on a rock seep, which I'm going to show you. So that was the hike we did. It was about 2 to 3 miles total. And it took us the whole day, like I said. Botanists crawl. Every time we're like, okay, we're done with that plan, we'll keep moving. Oh, there's another thing. So
They didn't want to wear you out.
yeah, that's right. That's right. They can't, you gotta go slow for those flatlander legs. These are the species that I managed to write down. This is not a comprehensive botanical list of the plants found in this area, but it's as much as I could manage to scribble. This is over 60 species, and I've got them obviously categorized by different types, trees, shrubs, forbs. So you can see there's a really wide variety of plants up there. Everything in yellow is a high elevation specialist, meaning that it only grows at high elevations. You will never find it, lower than the mountains. And we're not going to look at all 60 of these because I didn't take pictures of all 60 of these. We're just going to look at some of the showy standout ones that I loved. And also some views. So this is just a shot as we were walking down the trail looking out into the mountains. This is my happy place. This brings peace to my soul. The first plant is the smooth southern bush honeysuckle, or Dyervilla sessilifolia. This is a rapidly colonizing plant in higher elevation areas where openings have occurred from forestry practices or fire or anything like that. It does really well in full sun, windy, dry. It can handle those sort of tougher environments. It was a favorite with the pollinators. There are pollinators all over it. So this is a really great pollinator species. And on the southern smooth bush honeysuckle was this orange spaghetti-like thing called dodder. Dodder is there are native ones and non-native ones. This is a native dodder. They are parasitic vines. They have no leaves and they cannot produce their own food through chlorophyll. So what they do is they wrap around, usually they have a specific plant group. Each species of dodder likes certain groups of plants. And they use these suction cup things called houstonias. Houstonias? I think that's a plant genus. Anyway, and they suction in and connect to the xylem of the plant and get those sugars and carbohydrates.
Do they kill them?
Typically, no. The invasive non-native ones can, but our native ones tend to have better checks and balances, just like anything else. And there was so much of this bush honeysuckle. So I wasn't really concerned about it. They have really cute flowers. They're hard to take photos of. And this particular daughter is a high elevation specialist, so it only occurs in these high elevation areas. Cuscata rostrata. This is a fairly common plant. They grow here in the woods here, but I just love it. And I loved the way that it was nestled into the yellow birch, the common ghost pipe or Monotropa uniflora. These are also parasitic plants, but they're parasitic on fungi that are usually attached to trees. So they're usually mycorrhizal fungi, and then they're getting their nutrients from that fungi. But I just loved this scene up against the yellow birch and the green moss. And yellow birch happens to be my favorite tree. So Rhododendron maximum or the great laurel. These shrubs are understory shrubs. They get to be 10 to 20 feet tall. But they like really rich and acidic soils, and they grow in dappled shades. So they're under the canopy of the trees. This was actually pretty late for this one to be blooming. There was none of the other ones are blooming. This was like the last floral display left. So I snagged a photo for y'all. Chelone obliqua. This was a new species to me. The one that we have down in this area would be Chelone glabra, just plain turtle head. This is the purple turtle head. These are like a clump forming perennial. They're pollinated by bees. I mean, how can you not love this color? And they're tube shaped, and the bees have to like wedge their way in there. So all you get to see is the butt of the bee sticking out at the end of the flower. Houstonia. Serpillifolia. This was also a new one. We do have a much more common species, Houstonia cerulea or bluets, and this is the Appalachian bluet. And I used if anybody has one of those hand lenses that they use out in the field, you can place it up against the lens on your phone. And that's how I was getting these zoomed in shots of the flowers, because they're very small and they're hard to get, like unless you have good macro settings on your phone or have a macro camera, they're hard to get pictures of. So. And now my favorite, the orchids. I was so excited. I got to see 2 new orchid species on this trip to add to my life list. Just so you all know, this is a mechanical pencil. We all know how big a mechanical pencil is. This is the orchid. And our field trip leader spotted this just walking down the trail. This was the best I could get with my phone camera, and then I also did a zoom in shot of the flowers. Neodia smallii, or the Appalachian twiblade, or the Smalls twiblade, just absolutely adorable. This is also one of our orchids, Platanthera clavellata. This one is actually very, very common as opposed to the other one, which is quite rare. This one is, throughout the East Coast in wet, boggy areas. It'll even grow in wet depressions in the woods, but it's still really fun to see. This one is pollinated by moths, most likely due to the white flowers. And you can also tell that it's moth pollinated by these long nectar spurs. So the nectar is all the way down here, and you have to have a long proboscis to get down in there and get the nectar. This is Malaxis unifolia, the green adder's mouth orchid, another very rare plant. This one is about as big as the twiblade. They're this tall. And these inflorescences can get up to 160 of those tiny, tiny little flowers on them. So just another one I'd never seen in my life before. So I was in heaven getting to add orchids to my life list. We also saw crested fringed orchid, but I did not traverse down into the depths to get a picture of it. I have other pictures, so. This was a really cool little St. John's wort, Hypericum bucklei, the granite dome. That's supposed to say dome, not done. St. John's wort. It never gets bigger than like 10 inches. So it's like this tiny little mound. It almost acts like a ground cover, but it's technically a shrub. So I just absolutely fell in love with it. And the picture on your left is what like the sides of the trail look like. Turk's cap lily. This is a fairly common lily, although I think they become more common as you get into the mountains and they're less common on the coast, but they can be found here. These get 8 to 10 feet tall, so even though the flowers hang down, you can stand underneath them and look at them. These are one of the easiest to grow in the garden environment too. So if you're looking to add a native lily to your garden, this is a good one to try. Not a plant. This is the rock gnome lichen, Gymnoderma lineare. Lichens, as most of you probably know, are actually a symbiotic relationship between fungus and algae. They're two organisms working together. But what I thought was really, really cool about this is actually one of only 2 federally listed on the Endangered Species Act species of lichen. That was listed in 1995, and there was only about 30 or so known populations at that time. They now have records of 68 populations worldwide, and 32 of those are on conservation, protected lands. So I just thought that was kind of a neat thing to get to see an endangered lichen. And it's just on a rock on the side of the creek. Like you're not even gonna notice it most of the time unless someone pointed it out to you. This is Flat Laurel Creek. As you can see, it's brown tannin stained waters. This is one of the remaining areas where our native brown brook trout can be found, and they can survive without interference from introduced rainbow trout. So this is a, freshwater, high elevation stream that's too cold for the rainbow trout. So this is a really important body of water to protect for those fish populations. One of my favorites. I had not seen this plant since I moved down south, but they occur all along the East Coast, and I believe there is a species out on the West Coast as well. Caminerion angustifolium, or fireweed. Willow herb is another common name that I hadn't heard until I was looking this plant up. But it's called fireweed because it rapidly colonizes after a fire. This plant actually was one of the first plants to recolonize Mount St. Helena after the volcanic eruption in 1980. And they're just stunning. I mean, this plant is, 5 feet tall, and that inflorescence is like this. So they're just really big, beautiful, showy plants. And we gotta give some love to the mosses. This is called feather moss. I do not remember if they told us the specific species or not, and I'm no good at identifying these things, but I just think it's beautiful. I just love the textures and the different hues of green and the brown, almost like a rachis of a feather. And they tend to grow on like old stumps and stuff. So this is actually growing up an old tree stump here. And then this is the cranberry, so Vaccinium macrocarpone. This is the species that we eat. This is the large cranberry, so they're grown for food production. But usually you would see them in a bog, right? Out on the East Coast and the Northeast, they fill entire bogs with these, and then they flood them to get, and get the berries out. But this was actually on rock face that was just a constant seep of water. So that was really neat to see. And the flowers are so tiny, but they're really cute. This is the fun thing about getting to use a hand lens with your phone is you get to see these tiny little flowers and appreciate them for what they are. Like at our scale, when we normally look at them and we're like, you know, it's a tiny little thing, who cares, you know, but as soon as you zoom into it, you're like, hey, this is really beautiful. Just something to think about. And plant native or die. I loved this shirt. This was our field trip leader. And that is a shot looking out over that human managed meadow they have on the property. So I highly recommend to, if you can, attend a Cullowhee conference. It is a life-changing experience. And you might get to go to Sam's Knob. Thank you. Yeah.
Any control burns in that area? You said the fire week was back after fires. Do they do?
I don't know if they did controlled burns, but I know certain portions they definitely managed the land to be open. That fireweed was like at the edge of that meadow. So the meadow itself was seeded at one time, and there's like a mix of native wildflowers and non-native grasses that they planted up there. But the fireweed was actually like on the edges of it as you were leaving the meadow. So I think in that case, they may have come in just based on the disturbance. Thank you.
Sam's Knob. All right. Maeve.
Hey everyone, I'm Maeve Snyder. I'm our education chair. I also was very lucky to attend the Cullowhee Native Plant Conference this year, along with Tierney. It was a really fun trip together. It was like sleepaway camp, except you sleep on the worst beds you've ever experienced at West Carolina University.
Seriously, and I really should have.
Yeah, I was like, bring a mattress pad. They're bad. So I wanted to just talk about like some of the big highlights and takeaways from the conference. They had really wonderful speakers this year. So I brought some books sort of associated with the different speakers that we got to hear to sort of report back what we learned from this year's conference. So trying to think, yeah, field trips were wonderful. The speaker lineup included a number of big names in the native plant game. First and foremost is Doug Tallamy, who I'm guessing many of you are familiar with as the author of Nature's Best Hope and Bringing Nature Home. So new Tallamy dropped. So Doug Tallamy was there. He actually spoke twice because another speaker was running late. He just jumped in. But he has a new book called How Can I Help? It is essentially an extended FAQ page. I think now that he is so often just touring around with giving speaking engagements, he gets so many questions and he just put them all together into a book. It's just like a giant book of questions and answers of how to do native plant gardening, how to solve problems, that sort of stuff. So those were the big takeaways. He, covered the typical argument of why native plants are so important. I think Tierney has mentioned there was a lot of focus on moths at this year's Cullowhee conference. So we talked a lot about that, but highly recommend his new book. And I'm going to be pretty brief. Another speaker at this year's conference was Drew Lanham. He is the author of a few books. One is called The Home Place, and he's also a poet. So he's got a few books of poetry. I've got one of them here. And he was a MacArthur Genius Fellow in just a few recent years. He was an ornithologist at Clemson University. He's written extensively about South Carolina and the experience of being a Black person in an environmental field, being an ornithologist. So it's more bird than plant focused, but he's a really wonderful writer. And at Cullowhee, he, sort of bridged that gap. I mean, I can't even begin to recreate the impact of his talk. First of all, he got up there, no slides, just reading from his notebook. The room was quiet. He has an amazing presence. I mean, I first met him when I was in grad school in Columbia. He did a creative writing workshop at the library, and I attended that. And he is just masterful with language, and that's really like how he connected his work as a writer, as an ornithologist, to speaking at Cullowhee. He talked a lot about invasive species. And I think his point was that words are powerful and language is powerful, and he uses language very masterfully to talk about these things. And I think it was really impactful, his message around the way we communicate about native plants and invasive plants does matter. He gave several examples where I think you see this sometimes on especially on social media, native plant language of kill your lawn sucks, native plants suck. Versus a positive message of native plants support biodiversity, create beautiful habitat. So his message was, in a time where there's a lot of xenophobic language happening, the way we conscientiously communicate about invasive species matters. I think he also, had some good points about when we see invasive species that are being utilized by wildlife, he talked about seeing birds nesting in a patch of bamboo. Tierney, you had a really good take on it. It was it doesn't mean we shouldn't do the work of removing and restoring invasives with native plants, but maybe the timing of it matters, or the methods that we use, right? Don't just go spraying chemicals all crazy, or observe when the birds are nesting and when they're not, and time it strategically. So anyway, he had a really powerful message, and it was cool because at a conference like Cullowhee, I think it's such a big gathering of people in this community. One of the things we should do at a time like that is critically self-reflect and think about where we're going as a group. And he totally understood the assignment and was let's, really think about how we communicate. So anyway, I've got 2 of his books up here if you would like to check them out. He's originally from South Carolina, so he writes and thinks very deeply about our state. Okay. Another speaker, Tierney knows that I was starstruck. There's no Hollywood celebrity I would rather meet than Kristen Wickert, who is she's the social media influencer. She's a Instagram person who I've learned a lot from. Social media has a lot of downsides, but the ability to learn directly from an expert without having to go seek them out or maintain a correspondence with them, she shares a lot of knowledge. And she was there to speak about her new book, The Plants of the Appalachian Trail. So that was really cool to see. It's a really, really cool book. I've been reading it as I eat my breakfast, because it's just these little vignettes on different plant species. So they're very bite size. So yeah, it was really cool. She talked about the process of writing this book. She's hiked large sections of the AT. So that was really interesting. But the other thing that really jumped out at me from her talk, just a big takeaway that I got from it. So she was, until recently, a Forest Service employee. She is an expert plant pathologist. And so her work for the federal government was to do management of things like hemlock woolly adelgid, spotted lanternfly, like plant pathogens that are affecting the health of our forests. She would do things like inspect the health of trees in national forest campgrounds to make sure they don't fall on you when you're camping. So really impactful work. Unfortunately, she is a federal employee who recently lost her job. So she talked about that and what it means for her to like still try to keep her important projects going. And she's doing this largely like as a volunteer, or she said like maybe I'll end up as an underpaid contractor with no benefits, right? So I think for us as a group, as the Native Plant Society, it's a good chance to remember like because so many either federal employees or federally funded projects are not happening right now, we have a really important role to play at our local level, volunteering our time, you know, donating if we can, also just being a grassroots voice, because I think a lot of like good projects happen through federal dollars, either having it as an incentive to like incorporate native plants in your roadside infrastructure project or your stormwater management project. But if there's not going to be that top-down encouragement to do it and financial support, I think it's important for us to keep in mind like our very important role at this time to support it, be a voice for it. So that's like a big takeaway that I had. So I've got all these books up here. I'll have them if you want to check them out afterwards. But you know, after attending the conference, I learned so much, and I just wanted to share my reflections. And now for something completely different, because I've got a captive audience. I'm going to riff for a second about something that really annoyed me this week. So if you've been to our potlucks in the past, you might remember my usual tradition is to bring beautyberry jelly. Beautyberry is a wonderful native plant, and it has edible berries from which you can make jellies and jams. And this year I couldn't bring beautyberry jam because I had a beautyberry bonfire. So I recently discovered my beautyberry bush was infected with crepe myrtle bark scale. So this is like a PSA, because I noticed my beautyberry bush had that sort of sooty black mold that is usually the sign of that sort of like insect problem. And then I looked closer and the stems were just covered, and I put it on iNaturalist. It said crepe myrtle bark scale. And I was like, what the heck? It's not a crepe myrtle. And I read the whole, you know, extension page on it. So crepe myrtle bark scale, scale is an insect. It was accidentally introduced, I think, in Texas in 2004. It's since spread through much of the Southeast, mostly through the horticulture trade. And it is a pest on crepe myrtles, which are native to Asia, by the way. And then just like a little aside in the extension article was like, also, they've been observed on American beautyberry.
So I have a huge old one at my house that's dead from that this year.
Okay, so I was like, has anyone else dealt with this?
It's dead.
Dude.
All this white little scalies all over it.
So annoying. Yeah, so I was curious if anyone else has encountered this. If you haven't, PSA, apparently this can happen. They're not closely related plants. Like I'm super confused by it.
I just looked, they're in completely different families.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was like, maybe they're in the same family. No.
No, there is an Asian beautyberry, but again, that still wouldn't be related to crepe myrtle.
Do you
So-
have an infected crepe myrtle that was anywhere near you?
Well, my neighborhood's full of crepe myrtles, many of which have scale, because I can see the mold on them, right? So in the hopes of not having to use insecticide, right, like that IPM approach where chemicals are the last resort, I read that the scale can overwinter on the stems, but not in the ground. So I cut it back to the stem, I burned it, and we'll see. I have a feeling it's going to be a recurring problem. But anyway, that was super annoying this week, and I just wanted to share. Yeah.
I mean, how widely then is that? Like, did you find information on the forestry commission website? Like, is it
I read it on some state extension page, like University of Arkansas or something like that.
not in South Carolina? So, I mean, that's maybe something we need to tell our pest plant, or in our insect pest friends and forestry commission.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, because anecdotal evidence, but we got two right here. Yeah.
It's not being able to do that.
Yeah, I have no idea in other states if it has become like a significant concern in natural areas. No idea. So anyway, sorry, that's a downer. Anyway, thank you so much for Let me share.
Thank you, Maeve. All right, close your eyes again. Yeah. While we transition to Babs, this handsome young man is gonna go around and pick up your trash because we have an art project about to happen. He'll pick your trash and you're gonna pass out a bag. You're also welcome to stand up and stretch if you'd like. You can also get more food. If you don't want Luke to take your plate, you can say no, you can get more food. And this is our longest meeting of the year because we have so much fun, so much to share.
All right, so it's only given me. All right, so we need one more over here. Okay. There's one more at the box.
Oh, she's got room.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Oh my God. I've seen them. Everybody's got back? Sure. Well, you're gonna be careful, the wires are sharp.
Do you need people's attention? What do you need?
All right. This is the craft portion of the night. When everybody gets back to your table, this is the craft portion of the night. In your bag, you've got the basis of a Venus flytrap. This is a recycling craft. You have all the parts in the bag. If you'll carefully reach in, don't stick yourself. The wires are sharp on the end, and you'll have something that's like this. The base is sable palmetto scrap. The little fly traps are bottle caps.
Sorry, what's the base?
Sable palmetto. And if you've got any loose parts, just dump them out on the table. You're going to have a couple of white flowers. You should have some flower-shaped little sepals. And then you'll have some yellow fluff and maybe some little leaf scraps, okay? All right. Let's see. What are we advancing with up here? Sorry.
Should just be able to click.
Just click.
Press the right arrow
Right arrow.
on the keyboard. Oh, no.
Oh, on the keyboard. I'm sorry. Okay. So we've got the sable palmetto scrap base. I've already glued the bottle caps on for you. This was our plant prom craft. Okay. So you've got the green sepals. We're going to start with that. And they've got a little pilot hole on here for you. And if you'll take it and put it on one of your wires and go down with the pilot hole just about maybe a little ways, a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, and put a sepal down each wire just a little ways. One little sepal on each. They're sort of like the green flower part. Do you see that? Can you see that clearly? Little sepal down each wire. Be careful, don't poke your fingers. All right. Next step is going to be taking a styrofoam flower. We're recycling here. We're using trash. Shiny side up makes them look the best. You've got a pilot hole in the styrofoam flower, and I think each of you have a big flower and a little flower, and the sepals sort of match. Poke him on down the wire above your little sepal.
I really want to know how you came up with this.
I saw the bottle caps and I thought they looked like little fly traps. Somebody was pitching them. Now, we have to thank the OD Arcade and Bar for the bottle caps. They donated them over a couple of months.
Should we visit and thanks?
They would love that. They have lunch specials that are to die for too. They're really good. All right, once you get your flowers on, you'll need to share the glue at your tables, unscrew the tops. If you unscrew it all the way, it comes out better. And if you'll put a good glob of glue on the end of the wire and take a pinch of your yellow fluff, that'll be your stamens. And if you put it on the bottom of the wire right at the yellow flower, it should hold the wire, the flower and your sepal on as well. If you find your sepal sliding a little bit, you can put a little bit on the underside. But you put your yellow fluff right there on the wire and hide the end of your wire. You don't need all that yellow fluff. Just use what you want. I gave you a good clump of it just so you'd have plenty. And I've got baby wipes for if you get glue on your fingers.
Good Girl Scout project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is you've got an assortment of little leaves that you can put a little bit of glue on the bottom of the fold and tuck them around the bottom of your little bottle caps and give your little fly trap some little leaves if you'd like. You don't have to, but if you'd like some little leaves, just tuck them around the bottom of your fly traps. Or not, it's up to you. You don't have to use all the little parts.
What's a little heart-shaped one for?
That's just a different kind of little leaf.
You put a ton of work into these. I know.
I had help. I had some friends help.
And then all those. Yes.
There may have been a little bit of alcohol involved.
Extra off the beers.
We did not drink the beer, believe me. We did not drink it. If any of the bottle caps came loose in transport, I do have some super glue. So if anybody's got a loose bottle cap, let me know. Does anyone need any assistance? Are we all doing okay? I do.
Yeah.
And we're gonna lose cap.
All righty, I'll come right around. And seriously, you'll be surprised at how close they look to real little fly traps when you get through.
Can't tell the difference.
But this one you don't have to feed, you don't have to water. And if you break the styrofoam flower or anything, we have extras.
Did you say yes?
I do, I'm grabbing it now. You have a loose cap over here.
Thinking of that as like
Does anyone need a baby wipe? Anyone make a mess? Yeah, it wasn't for you.
Oh, okay. It makes me feel better.
Yeah.
So they want it with them. Are you done? Cheers.
All right.
Don't know what is going to find teeth.
Are you? That was awesome. Okay, we're almost done then, folks. We're gonna have a lightning round of Plant of the Month for Tierney for November.
November plant of the month. Symphyotrichum pilosum, or the frost aster, also known as hairy aster. Obviously this is me posing, taking a selfie with my Symphyotrichum pilosum. This plant just showed up in like the rocks that grow at the end of my, or that are at the end of my driveway do like hold the sediment back from clogging up my culvert pipe. And I actually wasn't sure what it was when it first started to grow, but I'm one of those people that just lets things grow in my yard and figure out what they are before I decide whether I want to get rid of them or not. But this thing just exploded this fall. And I took this selfie and I put it on my Facebook and I said, who needs Asian mums when you have native asters? This is what we should be planting for fall colors instead of spending a ton of money on mums that last a week. These were all over my yard. The bumblebees were everywhere. They're really great. So they can tolerate full blasting sun. This location gets absolutely zero shade on my property. It's growing in straight sand. They like sandy, rocky soils, and they're really drought tolerant. So they're great for those tougher environments, but they can also grow in wetter conditions as well. I've got them along the edge of my roadside ditch as well. So they're fairly adaptable. They do grow. I mean, this was probably 3 to 4 feet tall and the spread was maybe 5 feet wide. So they're just showstoppers. I just absolutely love this plant so much. This is their distribution. They're very common. The black squares mean that they're present and they're common. So they are, they grow from northern Florida all the way up into the Northeast and all the way west to Texas, where the populations seem to piddle out a little bit. But you can find them from the coast all the way up into the mountains. These are the flowers. How cute are those? They're just joy, right? They're just happy joy. Symphyotrichum pilosum. So the word pilosum actually means hairy or fuzzy. And I'll show you a close-up of that in a minute. But here are the leaves. So the picture on your right is the basal leaves, like when it first comes up in the spring. So if you are looking around your property in the spring and you see these, you could be like, oh yes, I've got a frost aster. And then they have alternate leaves that are kind of lanceolate or lance shaped. So that helps you with identification. There's my pictures of the fuzzy stems. So they have hairs on every part of the stems and leaves. The leaves feel fuzzy, the stems feel fuzzy. That's one of the ways that you can also identify this plant. The seeds are tiny. That is a dime. They need, I think it was 30 days cold moist stratification. And then they need to be surface sown. They need sunlight to germinate. But they just come up all over the place on their own too. So like if you just don't mow things, you'll probably get them. Or you can come to my house because I have seeds everywhere. And they are a pollinator powerhouse. Thank you to Charlene Johnson. She is the owner of Native Plants to the People, who often comes to our plant sales as a vendor, but she also is a pollinator photographer. She really, really loves doing this. And I was having a lot of trouble on Google finding good pictures. And I said, hey, Charlene, what you got? And she was like, oh, just go onto my iNaturalist. I got a ton of them. So these were the best ones. Obviously, you can see butterflies, bees, flies, and wasps will all visit this plant. I mostly saw bees on it at my house. And they are the host plant for the pearl crescent, which is that orange butterfly up there. So the caterpillars feed on this plant, as well as there is a bunch of specialized bees in the genus Andrena and Coletes. So specialized bees have like a certain genus that they can only feed from, and this supports those specialized bees. And that's it.
We will see you again, hopefully here in January 15th. That's the third January. And what? No, let's try that again. That's the third Thursday in January in 2020. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We've confirmed it right now. Fact checked. It does seem too early. Yeah. So we'll see you here January 15th, 2026, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready for another year of native plants. Does anyone have anything else to share for the good of the group?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yes, Hope.
Question, so voting the new officers, does that happen in January or?
That has happened at our January meeting.
Okay.
Or we might discuss doing it on the newsletter or like some sort of thing. So that is something for us still to decide. So we will do some sort of confirmation. Yes. But so more details on that. Thank you for clarifying. So remember, you can gift native plants in your holiday gift giving this season. You can share some of the books that Mae recommended. You can buy SCNPS merch. You can donate to the Native Plant Society or your other favorite native plant charity. You can plan your spring pollinator garden already. Please sign up to help with our plant rescues. Be kind, touch a plant. We'll see you next year. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.